Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is Mrs. Kehinde Aisha of CTY Model College, Ring Road, Ibadan. I welcome you, my dear JS1 Economics students, to another episode of your last topic, production of income-yielding crafts, that is tie and dye and batik. In our previous lesson, we tend to explain the overview of tie-dye as what? A vocation, a viable vocation that educated men and women can venture into so that they create beautiful and lovely designs that can meet international standard. We also discuss the meaning of dyeing as the process of resisting fabric from absorbing the dye solution. We also view some of our fabulous tie-dye prints. And we promise to see the meaning, the process of dyeing in our next lesson, which we are going to be having now. The dyeing process, tie-dye process. How do we go about dyeing? Number one, wash the clothes with detergent because new fabrics contain starch, which may not allow dye solution to penetrate evenly. What does this mean? When you buy new prints, that is new fabric, there is this starch on it that makes dye uneasy to penetrate. For that, you are going to wash your fabric before starting up with what? The dyeing solution. Number two, tie, fold or stitch the cloth as desired. This has to do with the process of dyeing method. You can apply any method. You can either tie, you can fold or stitch, depending on the way you want it. Prepare the dye bath with the right quantity of dye stuff and chemical, that is 2 yards of cloth, a table teaspoon of caustic soda, and 2 teaspoons full of hydrogen sulfate, and 1 spoonful of dye as desired. That is, for every 2 yards of fabric, you use a table teaspoon of caustic soda and 2 spoonful of hydrogen sulfate and 1 spoonful of dye solution. The fourth one, mix them with a cup of hot water in a dye bath. You get a bucket or a bowl, that is the dye bath. We get a bowl and we mix all these chemicals together to form a solution. Add cold water that could soak the clothes. You add cold water to it to soak the fabric. Allow to rest for 15 minutes and allow color development. You allow the fabric in it to soak for at least 15 minutes. This will enhance the color to spread out on the fabric. Make sure the tied cloth is wet before entering the tied bath to ensure even penetrations. What does that mean? As we said earlier that you should wash the clothes. By washing it, you had rinsed the soapy area of the cloth. You had rinsed off the soap on it, and thereby enhancing it to penetrate the dye solution evenly. Number 8, stir with a stick and immerse the tied wet cloth. That is, dip the fabric into the dye solution and stir it with a stick so that the dye solution can penetrate evenly. Leave it for another 15 more minutes. That is, having done that, having immersed the fabric in the dye solution, you leave for another 15 more minutes. Remove and squeeze the cloth to remove excess dye. As much as you leave the fabric in the dye solution, it will have absorbed more than enough dye in the dye bath. So for so doing, you squeeze it to remove the excessive part of the dye that had been absorbed. Number 11, spread the cloth out for some minutes to receive an oxygen. You leave it out so that the cloth will absorb some amount of oxygen so that the cloth will be relaxed. Untie and rinse several times. Why? Because it is good to rinse well so that when washing it will come against the dye solution fading out. Starch, dry and iron. As soon as you have done this, you starch it, because majorly cotton fibers or cotton fabrics are used for what? For dyeing. So you starch it, you dry, and you iron accordingly. That is for tie and dye. I'm sure we're following it. For batik, batik is the method that involves the use of melted wax to create pattern and design on the cloth before dyeing so that it could resist the dye solution. Okay, unlike the tie and dye that you use, you can pleat, you can fold, you can marble, you can stitch. For batik, melted wax is used to create designs on it, like the one I did back then in schools. I remember my batik was naira. I inscribed naira on fabric. That is the logo, the naira logo on my fabric. So you can create any design. You can decide to draw with the wax, depending on how creative you are. You can decide to draw on the what? On the fabric. You can create any design of your taste, of your choice on the what? On the fabric, such that that particular area that is designed will be restricted from absorbing the what? The dye solution. That's the implication. For the tie and dye, if you remember very well, the area you had pleated, the area you must have stitched, the area you must have marbled, the area you must have knotted are the areas that will be restricted from the dye, from absorbing the dye solution. But in case of batik, the area that the melted wax is printed on is the area where this dye solution will be what? Will be resisted. What are the materials needed for batik? We have beeswax or candle wax, we need stove, we need stencil or stamp, we need brush, the dye bath, the dye stuffs and chemical, and the iron. What are the process in batiking? 1. Melt the wax. 2. Apply wax design on the fabric through brush, stamp, or stencil, depending on the one you want to use. Then 3. Allow it to cool. Why? Because if the wax is not cool on the fabric, there is every tendency that it melts out during what? Soaking or during the dyeing, the major dyeing process. So you leave it to cool down. Then prepare the dye bath with fairly warm dye solution. Why? Because if the dye solution is very hot, there is every tendency that the dye solution will melt the wax. So you need a warm dye solution such that the wax print on the fabric will not melt out. Okay, immerse the fabric and leave it for about 15 to 20 minutes, just as we've done in tie dye. You immerse the fabric in the dye solution and leave for about 15 to 20 minutes. Remove and spread out the cloth for oxygen, just like we done in tie and dye. You leave it in fresh air, then iron and fold accordingly. Inshallah, in our next class, we'll be considering another topic entirely. Stay tuned. Till then, I remain your able teacher, Mrs. Kende Aisha. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.